What's the buzz about micro-credentials? Building effective educators of English learners, a blended competency-based approach to professional learning. And this is being shared by the Excel Leadership Academy. Who are we? Lorene Avery is our director of the Excel Leadership Academy. Christine Butler is our TESOL teacher and an Excel coach. Maria Zampano is another TESOL teacher and Excel coach. And myself, Victoria White, I'm currently an assistant principal and one of the directors of the Excel Leadership Academy. How and why did this come to be? The Excel Leadership Academy is a nonprofit organization currently based in Shelton, Connecticut. Through our work, we have partnered with the Shelton Public Schools, and we use that district as a mentor site, various local school districts in New York and Connecticut, and most recently, we have taken on some school districts in Rhode Island as well as Vermont. UCLA Center X is one of our partners, as well as the Center for Secondary School Redesign, and they do much of their work around improving student voice. American View Productions is based out of Bridgeport, Connecticut, and they help us with our marketing as well as some of our video and visuals for our work. Alpha Research and local organizations within the Shelton community, such as the Boys and Girls Club and the local library. The development of this work is supported in part by grant funding from the U.S. Department of Education. We'd like to do a quick activity, and I'm going to turn this over to two of my colleagues, Maria and Christine, to talk about the That's Me activity. And it's an activity in which we are going to take a look at how our similarities bring us to a common ground, and differences allow us to be fascinated by one another. Christine?
So folks, here's what we're going to do. We're going to listen to each statement. If the statement describes you, we ask that you click on an emoji at the bottom of your virtual screen, and then hopefully you can see others, and you're going to notice who's like you and who is not. So our first statement will be, I'm human only after a morning cup of coffee.
I have been in education 10 years or more.
I can speak more than one language.
I'll take cold weather over the heat any day.
I've sat through professional development that seemed to last forever.
One of our core principles at the Excel Leadership Academy is that all teachers are teachers of English learners. The need for teachers to understand how to scaffold academics for students in English is growing exponentially. Many traditional pre-service and in-service professional development efforts are not effective in preparing teachers for this reality that they are facing across this nation. Teachers often report that they feel unprepared to meet the challenges of teaching English learners. The needs of our English learner students are extremely diverse and change continually. Ongoing professional development is very important to meet their needs. And all classroom teachers need to know how to effectively develop and support academic English for their students. Professional development versus micro-credential. These should be interesting. We're going to take a look at some statements, and we would like you to think about whether or not the statement would be in the professional development area or in micro-credential. It is only useful when given time to work with grade level partners and specialists to implement learning. said a first grade teacher. If you stated professional development, that is correct. Many times there are no takeaways. A kindergarten teacher. Professional development. It is engaging because it is applicable to your situation at the moment, stated a TESOL teacher from Shelton, Connecticut. And that is a micro-credential statement.
It is usually district directed and does not pertain to our school or classroom needs. Where does this go? And a fourth grade teacher stated that about professional development. It is teacher driven based on the needs of our current students. Which one is this referring to? If you guessed micro-credential, you are correct. It's referring to the micro-credential side. It is so helpful working with my team. We are able to develop programs and initiatives to directly impact our kids, said a kindergarten teacher. Where might this be placed? You guessed it, right under micro-credentials.
One TESOL teacher stated, it's learning with actual follow-up. It's ongoing opportunities to try new and different things. Is that professional development or micro-credential? It is a description of a micro-credential. A third grade teacher said, collaboration with colleagues, other schools, and towns is very useful. Would that fall under professional development or micro-credential? And that again is a micro-credential. And finally, an 8th grade language teacher stated, sometimes I think, this again? Didn't we just do this? Would that fall under professional development or micro-credential? And you probably guessed professional development.
There is a major need for professional learning focusing on teaching EL students. The majority of classroom teachers will tell you that they are underprepared and lack confidence in their ability to work with students in their classes who may not speak English, or to connect with students and families from vastly different cultures and backgrounds. Many of our teachers that attend local accredited teacher education programs do not receive coursework that is in depth addressing this area. English learners are disproportionately taught by less qualified teachers, and many mainstream even more worrisome. Teacher preparation programs and state's professional development programs must prepare educators to properly support English learners through the transition, as well as to help them succeed with the new standards. And there are many states across the United States in which gaining an English learner certification is becoming required of teachers. As stated in the activity we just completed, you can see that many of our participants feel that micro-credentials are a better approach to professional learning. The Excel micro-credentials promotes the use of evidence-based instructional strategies that have been proven effective with English learners. Overall, many participants will report that it's a better approach to professional learning. The Excel Leadership Academy makes professional learning more accessible to more teachers based on the platform you're going to learn about in a few minutes. Teachers are supported and assessed by national experts and experienced staff that comprise the Excel Leadership Academy. An educator who has earned an Excel micro-credential has demonstrated their knowledge as well as their skill in applying best practices in their classroom or school. And I think that that's a very important part of the work that happens because teachers are utilizing their classrooms and current student populations. It really makes the work more meaningful and changes the way in which teachers effectively work with English learners. Effective professional learning for teachers is collaborative and peer mediated. Effective teacher professional development supports collaboration, uses models of effective practice, and provides coaching and expert support. Lower performing teachers benefit from interactions with higher performing colleagues. And overall, teacher performance improves when an effective teacher joins a collaborative work team. Within a micro-credential program, participants direct their own pathway. Teachers analyze their current practices and design and implement projects, strategies, or initiatives in real time with their own students. Teachers progress at their own rate and demonstrate their mastery of best practices. Teachers share their process and results for assessment and feedback from peers and national experts. You might ask, are micro-credentials only for general education teachers? Anyone can earn a micro-credential. Whole school view and strategies to influence, impact the students at large. The roles of an administrator and support of teacher pathway commitment to becoming effective educators of English learners. Paraprofessionals, nurse staff, support staff, general education teachers, unified art teachers, all are welcome to join in this process to further their knowledge and skill set when working with English learners. I'm now going to turn it over to my colleague, Christine Butler.
So what you are looking at, folks, is a tiered approach to micro-credentials for career advancement. We have developed a sequential tiered approach to this. There are 6 basic micro-credentials. Those are the ones shown in blue. Those are for all classroom teachers and anyone else as part of our team, including support staff, working with English learners. A second set of micro-credentials, those pictured in black, are reserved for those individuals interested in pursuing ESL certification to become ESL specialists. The 6 credentials that are in blue, second language acquisition, instructional strategies, equitable assessments, school culture and family engagement, supporting student voice, professionalism, all of those are ready to go. We also have one of those black micro-credentials working with newcomers, also ready to go. The others are work in progress. And so, as Vicki stated, the work of earning the micro-credential really does happen within the classrooms of which you are a part and the schools that you are working in. The support from peers and colleagues really is the important part of this program. It is possible to do a micro-credential individually. However, being part of the team just adds and enhances the experience for the students and the individuals. Participants work together as part of school teams to select and complete the micro-credentials that they would like to be currently working on. As they work on the projects, the participants seek and benefit from each other's feedback and the experiences of other educators, not only from their own team, but teams across the state or across states, taking advantage of the online discussion components. All of those are featured on our partner of Bloomboard that has made it very, very user-friendly to access the micro-credentials and work through the process. They have a customized platform hosting curated resources specific to each micro-credential, providing online coaching, as well as that peer network that I was just talking about. And evidence of each stage is uploaded to the site. So you're working in sequential stages, and then it's assessed by those certified evaluators.
We have a little activity to see if you can identify school activities and the type of micro-credential that they would be classified as. And we're going to take you to Quizzes, which is a very useful app for students and teachers to check their knowledge, reinforce their learning. So once you've created a Quizzes activity, your students can have access to this. They can do it synchronously or asynchronously. I've set it up so that this is an asynchronous activity. And we're going to play. And start. Appropriate accommodations are provided to give students the best chance to show their learning. School culture and family engagement, supporting student voice, second language acquisition, instructional strategies, or equitable assessments. Which type would that be? Which micro-credential would it fall under? And that would be equitable assessments. Students and families see themselves in the school environment. Which micro-credential does that fall under? And that would be school culture and family engagement. Learning tasks engage students of varying language proficiency levels. And that would be instructional strategies. Educators research language theory to discover characteristics of behavior as English develops. And the micro-credential this is describing is second language acquisition. School clubs that value student perspectives are formed. And that micro-credential is supporting student voice. Students influence decisions made in the classroom and in the school. The micro-credential supported by this activity is supporting student voice. Students and teachers collaborate on projects inspired by student suggestion. And once again, supporting student voice. Educators use language proficiency scores to plan instruction. Now, this one might be classified under two possible micro-credentials. However, the one that we selected is instructional strategies. School events that acknowledge culture, bilingualism, diversity, and differences are designed and planned. And this activity falls under the school culture and family engagement micro-credential. Students demonstrate understanding and mastery of skills in various ways. The micro-credential that describes this activity is equitable assessments. There is a difference between conversational and academic language. And educators who take the micro-credential of second language acquisition would know the difference between conversational and academic language. Parents and families have multiple opportunities to contribute meaningfully to school. And that would fall under school culture and family engagement. Hallways, common areas, and classrooms are transformed into places for multicultural displays. And the micro-credential for this is school culture and family engagement. Educators research and implement resources or programs to supplement curriculum. This activity falls under instructional strategies. Instruction fosters cultural awareness and celebrates diverse backgrounds. And that falls under school culture and family engagement. And finally, language develops in stages. And by taking the second language acquisition micro-credential, teachers would learn about the development of language. Thank you so much for participating in our little activity, and we'll get back to our presentation.
So one of the first activities that a school team will do is to think of a problem of practice, something that they believe their school needs or is lacking, areas in which that they want to work on. And so here are a few examples of some of the micro-credentials that have been done in the Shelton Public Schools community. A problem was that teachers were not familiar with what their students experienced as they progressed through the stages of second language acquisition. So through team meetings, it was kind of discovered that teachers really seemed to not be comfortable with the progression as well as the stages of language development. And so the micro-credential that was earned connected to that was the stages of second language acquisition. And the teachers and staff at Long Hill School researched and presented not only at their school, but also at a summer breakout session sponsored by the Excel Leadership Academy. Here are a few of the slides as part of their presentation during their time. So in this particular slide, they are talking about the first language features compared to the second language features and how things are sometimes underlying as common proficiency. Another one of the slides, part of their presentation. And here is another slide in which they have displayed for the folks that they are presenting to the stages of second language acquisition. So they are basically turning into teachers of these stages so that the participants could learn about the stages themselves and common features of each stage, as well as time frames and teacher prompts, things that teachers and staff might be able to use with students at particular levels to better address their needs. Another team's problem was that teachers noticed English learners across all grade levels were struggling in writing. And again, after some careful analysis of data of all different kinds, as well as student work, this was the problem that was identified. The micro-credential that was earned to address this was Instructional Strategies. Again, Long Hill School teachers worked together, collaboratively creating sentence starters and frames and paragraph frames for each of the writing units.
Christine, if I could add to this slide with you, I think one of the most powerful aspects of this work is that teachers and teams are really identifying their problem of practice. They're using data that is informal, formal, and standardized to determine what that problem of practice is at their school. And I think that's why the learning is so rich and meaningful to participants. And as a member of the Academy doing work, I think it's just very powerful to see that in action with teams.
And to Vicky's point, there is a good chunk of time that is spent on analyzing that data and speaking about students and about common trends that is seen in that particular school and or grade level, depending on the situation at hand. These are examples of some of the organizers and scaffolds for supporting students at different proficiency levels. This was from the opinion writing unit that the team worked on. Also part of the work is that the team is not only using data from their actual students, but they're using the KELP standards as well as a guide for each proficiency level.
For this particular project, the teacher who was part of the team noticed that not only were the English learners using these structures and scaffolds, but also the other students in the class were using this to help support them if there was a need for this kind of support.
Here are other examples as they moved from opinion writing. Again, they saw the results not only, to Maria's point, for English learners, but the classroom as a whole. They went on to design for writing how-tos, as well as informational writing scaffolds and supports. Here's some student work as well. This was after the scaffolds were put into place.
Christine, do you recall this grade?
I want to say that this is a second grade.
At a different school, the issue that they were noticing is that writing scores were significantly lower than other content area assessments, and that students needed more writing clarity. And so they selected the micro-credential of Instructional Strategies as well as second language acquisition and equitable assessments to help them in researching this problem and finding solutions. So the resources that they selected to use to help their students is the Patterns of Power book by Jeff Anderson and Whitney LaRocca. And this was a way that teachers researched and implemented in their classrooms to help students improve their writing skills. Here is the cover of the book. And Patterns of Power invites students to notice model writing and then to imitate the writing that they see after they've analyzed the structure and all the observations that they've made about it. And then they applied this learning to their own writing. And here's the teacher who was part of that team and presented it at one of our design studios to help and inspire other teachers to use this resource to help their students.
And Maria's referring to a design studio, and what that is a day of basically professional learning, and the format in which we deliver design studios varies based on the content and the presenters that may be presenting. This particular design studio was done in a I guess you would say center type format. And what's really interesting about that is either through the design studios or what Christine was talking about earlier, we typically, except for this year due to the pandemic, have a 2-day summer institute in which teachers come together to learn, share, and hear from people in the field. It also gives them an opportunity to present their work. And what's really wonderful to see is in this particular project as well, Patterns of Power, it really became an interest to a few other schools that then reached out to the members of Sunnyside School and decided to take it on at their own schools. So it really helps to create that networking and that collaborative piece across different schools and teams to improve learning for teachers and in turn English language learners.
To Vicky's point, I feel like in the experiences that I've had, very few of these projects have lived in isolation. Once other teams and other teachers and staff are hearing of what is happening in other schools, it becomes a ripple effect, and it inspires other teams to maybe not do the exact same, but take the idea and transform it that would best suit the needs of their students, their families, their staff. It very rarely is in a bubble, these projects.
Another example of a project or idea that came to another school was how to create an environment that was welcoming and safe and inclusive of all students, while demonstrating knowledge of the various cultures represented at the school. And so the team members worked in the micro-credential called Fostering Positive School Cultures and Family Engagement for English Learners. And the staff planned and implemented several programs that encouraged family involvement and celebrates the diversity of the school population. They began by collecting heritage data. They did a survey of the families and collected all this data, focused on specific countries that were represented by the families. And then after the ESL teacher compiled this information, they created all kinds of displays throughout the school to share the heritage of all of the students at their school. And the first display of the year was the heritage stories from teachers in the building. And here is a sample of what that display looks like. It changed after a couple of weeks. They updated it and focused and highlighted a different culture. In addition to that, The families were invited to come into the child's classroom and share the information about their family's culture. Presentations included Simon Says in Portuguese, information about Brazil, information about Diwali, and information about Italy and the Lunar New Year. Mrs. Marr, a TESOL teacher at Long Hill School, tweeted about these activities, families coming in and sharing about their cultures. And the kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Dalton, thought that this was a much better experience than just having them read it from a book. It was much more personal, and students had a better connection to this information. Another issue that a school identified is that the school building is not reflective of the students within it. We can do more to celebrate the varied countries and cultures in our building. And so this group, this team, focused on the fostering positive school cultures and family engagement for English learners, micro-credential. And at Elizabeth Shelton School, they created and purchased decor and resources to diversify their look and to promote an inclusive environment.
To jump in, Maria, what I like about these projects back to back is you can see the differences. Yes, they are the same micro-credential, school cultures and family engagement, yet the way that each team took it totally addressed a different side of the students, the families, but yet coming about with the same goal. And so if we could just flip through, again, the displays within the school, yes, are similar to the other project, but the way in which the team went about it and the specific things that were purchased and or put up, displayed, talked about through discussions with students and teachers was very different.
So ESS, Elizabeth Shelton School, purchased a welcome sign in multiple languages. They put up signs at various locations throughout the school in multiple languages to identify these locations. And resources were purchased so that students could use and use in their home language or in English according to their interests.
We also purchased those posters that you see in the picture are strategically placed around the school. We were noticing that a lot of the decor in the school was outdated and or not reflective of many of the cultures in our school. And so what we tried to do is select posters and other things that diversified, we wanted to say beautify the school and show students a representation of their own skin color, their own culture, different people from around the world.
Christine, can you talk a little bit about, I know you've shared stories with me over the years of the impact this has on students walking down the hallways?
Yes, it really does become a focal point. And anybody who might think that people really aren't, and when I say people, I mean students, staff, parents alike. If you ever thought that they're really not noticing what's up on the walls or what isn't on the walls, it's not true. People are noticing what is up there, and the students, as they would pass through the hall, either in the beginning of the day as they would come in, or throughout the school day as they would journey from one place to the other, they really point out, they make a mention of it. In fact, some of the teachers, particularly the ones on our team, have made a point to find these additions to our school and bring the whole class and make it a stopping point and talk about what's displayed. And of course, these are ever changing, and so we add things to it and such. but they really make it almost like a lesson in motion. And a lot of conversation starters have begun at these points that have carried over into the classroom and at home. This is just another display bulletin board that's showing the differences between, of course, the Philippines and the United States. This was Project Important, and this was a school-wide activity in which students on the right were given opportunities to pin the map from cultures that represented their families. On the left and throughout the frames are pictures of students along with their families in any other place but the hometown. And so with the point being that we are an important part of our world, and of course the world being an important part of us. This was a school activity that actually carried us through the first 3 months of school by the time we got all of this set up, and lessons incorporated with it, and of course the actual pinning and display of pictures. Just another example of students sharing multicultural books, seeing themselves in text and literature. This was a fun activity that we did as part of School Spirit Week, in which we incorporated the Dress Your Culture or Dress as Your Culture day.
There you are, Christine.
There I am in all my splendor on bended knee. And that the man on the left is our physical education teacher, who has been part of our Excel team from the very beginning. And so this is just a sampling of students who really took the initiative and dressed as their culture. And I have to say, you could see their faces, they were quite proud of representing who they are.
I just want to add here as a side note, when we talked about earlier how micro-credentials are really for all staff members, Mr. Manning, the PE teacher at this particular school, really got hands-on with his project and really explored ways in which he can bring in different types of athletes that are from diverse, different cultures, as well as lots of nonfiction material. He actually has a cart library in his gymnasium that is reflective of very diverse, different types of people in sports and in physical education and health. And it's really been nice to see the way in which he incorporates this into his content area.
Also, as part of our project, we developed a Welcome to Elizabeth Shelton little book for students. And what we did was we went around and we took pictures of the folks in the school, those people that students would be interacting with, and just as a little welcome, an introduction to when students first come to school. And the feedback has been very, very positive. Many students coming in, let's say the second or third day of school, and let's say the special area teacher is introduced to them, and they said something like, "Hey, I saw you in that book," or "I know you were in that book." And so it really has made a connection to new students, as well as, we believe, welcoming them right from day one.
And there are still additional projects buzzing around concerning the micro-credentials. Some of them are Globalization Project, Newcomer Project, Reopening Schools Project, Social Justice Project, Positive School Climate Projects, and Cultural Research Project. Tell me again, what's the buzz about micro-credentials? The micro-credential approach is professional learning tied to specific competencies. This model of professional learning provides an efficient and effective vehicle for peer mentoring and coaching teachers working with English learners at any point in his or her career. What I like most about micro-credentials is that it's project-based learning. So we're actually putting into practice what we preach about project-based learning. We see an issue at our schools and design a project and then implement it over a period of time. And then we analyze its effectiveness. Did it meet its goals? And that is micro-credentials.
I'd like to add just, going back to our activity several slides ago, where some of the statements that people have made about professional development, professional learning, it's not to say that it's terrible and not useful. For sure, there's value and meaning in that as well. However, I want to go back to that statement that was something like, the person said, didn't we just do this or this again? You're never going to feel that way with a micro-credential, simply because it is ever-changing, relevant to exactly what either your classroom needs are, your student needs are, your school needs are. So you'll never really feel this thing that states, I don't know if this is for me. It is for you. It's going to be exactly for you, for your students, for your team.
And even with this work, ladies, we've seen teams or schools take a project from one year and adapt it and change it for the following year based on the composition of that student body or classroom.
This is the group of teachers, of educators who earned the micro-credentials for the first time that they were offered. They were recognized at the Summer Institute for Project Excel. The capacity to learn is a gift. The ability to learn is a skill. The willingness to learn is a choice. Brian Herbert. Thank you for your time today. If you have any questions, we would be very happy to answer them. For additional information regarding micro-credentials, please reach out to us at info@excelleadershipacademy.org. And please visit our website so that you can see all of the resources that are there for your perusal. www.excelleadershipacademy.org. And you could follow us on Twitter at UCLA Excel.